Can you hear me okay? Yeah.
Yeah, we can hear you.
Yeah.
So easy, man. All right, awesome.
So just to let you know, there's a couple of viewers here
Okay.
watching, two over there and two over there, because we're about to watch Eurovision from today.
Yeah.
So yeah, just so you know, there's a couple other people in the room as well. So
Yeah.
Trying
So easy.
to avoid spoilers.
yes.
Yeah. No, not a problem. I don't want to ruin everyone's night. Yeah, that's fine. Yeah, yeah. Cool. All right, sweet. Okay, so Proclivity. Welcome to Nightbreed. How's it going?
Good. Very well.
Thank you very much.
Very
Yeah,
well.
very well, very well.
Good, good. So looking at the Facebook page, it looked like you started putting stuff up 2022. Is that when Proclivity started?
Yes and no.
Okay.
Yes, this iteration of it. Yes, that's correct.
Okay.
This is a project I've been working on since about 2019 when I was living in Sydney.
Mm.
And the Sydney live music scene, as I'm sure you're probably aware, is pretty much non-existent, thanks to numerous things that I won't get into. Otherwise, we'll lose the whole episode to it. And basically couldn't find musos. So when I moved over here in late 21, I put up a post on Facebook saying help wanted, basically. And Hayden was one of the first to respond and say, hey, what do you got? So that was that, really. That was the start of it. And then we met Dave, Dave May, the drummer, and Sol, and Ben here was the last to sort of fill up the lineup. So then we had our first gig on what, 9th of April?
Yeah, something
yeah,
like
in
that.
2022. So,
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
Oh, cool. And then was it last night you guys launched Mania, right? Like the single, yeah?
Yeah, Friday night. So
Friday night, right? Yeah.
Yeah, so
Feels like last night.
feels like last night. Yeah.
Yeah.
Wasn't anything.
So yeah, how'd it go? How'd the show go?
Very well.
Best show we've ever played.
I would
Yeah,
say.
nice. Cool.
Yeah. Yeah. We had pretty much everything that Murphy could throw at us in the lead up to that show. So we thought, we might just get by. We might just stick this landing. Drummer injured his finger.
Oh, mate. Yeah.
Badly.
Yeah.
And so he was wearing basically a plastic sheath over it for the whole night.
We actually had to take the drumstick to his hand.
Yeah, he had like a
Yeah, well.
technique when that occurs.
yeah.
Numerous other technical things in the lead up, as is always the case on a big night. But yeah, we all managed to get on stage in time, get up there in a good mood, and we just did what we did in rehearsal the night before. And the crowd received it really, really well.
Yeah.
And we got to play for longer than we ever had. It was our first headline show.
Yeah, cool.
So hour-long set, which is nice being a prog band. It means you can play more than 4 songs.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Really, really happy with the reception, and people are really digging Mania as well. So yeah, success.
It's also the first gig I think I've actually heard people singing along to the lyrics, particularly at the end of Rain Dance.
Yep.
Which was a really sweet feeling. So yeah, it was good.
Yeah, cool, man. So talking about Mania, how did that song come together? Like, do you write everything, or is it kind of like a jammy shared thing going on?
It was kind of between the two of us, so Dave and I mostly. This was a demo that Dave had been sitting on for probably 3 years.
3 years at that point.
3 years at
that point.
And four now that we've released it.
Yeah. And it had lyrics on it that were done by another musician. But Dave sent me an instrumental version of it when I was auditioning for the band and said, see what you can do with this. So it wasn't, when I auditioned for Proclivity, it wasn't like a live audition. It was a recording audition, essentially, writing and recording audition. So yeah, I basically locked myself in my bedroom for the better part of 3 days and brainstormed some lyrics and threw them together. And, in the shower, at work, thought about melodies and whatnot. Then spent a few hours recording and then sent it back off to him. And we ended up liking that version so much, or getting so used to that version, that we decided to make that the version we would run with and rehearse and perform and then eventually record. So yeah, it was collaborative, but it was very segmented in its collaboration. So Dave did all of the music of it, and then I did all of the lyrics of it. And then we were really happy with the end product. And of course, when the other guys then learnt the song, they brought their own flair to it. They brought their own musicality to it. So it's a full collaboration in that sense. But yeah, this song dates back a while, and it's yet another of David's babies.
The weird things that come from my brain, that's for sure.
Cool. And you've got the lyric video for it as well. So that image, the main sort of image for that lyric video, was that something that whoever did the video come up with? Is that something that you sort of had, to go with the song? Like, how does that work?
Yeah, it's something that we had. Doesn't really do it justice. It's something that I again locked myself in my room with and tried to brainstorm and think up some symbolism that would go with the lyrics. And I wanted to go something that was quite surrealist. A lot of prog bands use that surrealist sort of imagery because it works. It really works with the tone of the music and how weird a lot of prog is, to have something quite unusual on the cover. So yeah, I did a mock-up for this Italian artist by the name of Marco Zagara, who's really, really good. His portfolio is next level. So I shot him an email and sent him the mock-up, and he said, yeah, I'd love to do something with this. And he's like, thank you for being so organized and like giving me so much to work with. And normally I have just vague concepts that I have to make things out of. But even so, like, that didn't prepare me for how much better his version was. And like, he was like a producer in a sense, because he said, it's a bit busy in this area. We can probably cut that. We probably don't need to include this bit of, symbolism, because this other thing covers that. And he slightly changed the composition, coloration, all that sort of thing, and came up with something that looks really epic in my opinion. And then, just a bit of back and forth. He was great to work with, more than happy to make changes to it. And so again, that was quite collaborative between myself and Marco.
But the video itself was a product of about 2 weeks or 3 weeks of Hayden sitting in a room tweaking things and trying to nest things in Adobe Premiere and tearing his hair out and so on and so forth. I was present for one of those. Trust me, he has less hair now than he did when we started.
Yeah, probably a good thing, actually. Yeah.
Oh, well. So what about influences? Like, are there bands that the whole band sort of, I don't know, all gets into together kind of thing?
There are.
Yeah.
But they're relatively few in comparison to the grand sum of bands that we would each individually on aggregate cite as being our influences. So yeah, we probably come together over some of the more mainstream acts, I would say. Like, most of the band is quite into Linkin Park, most of the band is quite into Slipknot, and we're into, all of the big name hard rock acts as well, like your Gunners, your AC/DC, maybe not Dave so much.
I was about to say,
maybe not Dave
please don't
so
tell
much.
me. Don't say I'm a fan of AC/DC.
But
please
like,
don't.
your Foo Fighters, these are all bands that we at least respect. And then individually, like, Dave is very much down the everything rabbit hole, but very much down the prog rabbit hole, as am I. So like, I love my Rush. We both love Dream Theater. I think the band as a whole really likes Tool. Our drummer was in a Tool cover band back when he was in Adelaide, which was a very good thing to have on his resume when he was being considered for the band. So yeah, I mean, Ben, what about you?
Iron Maiden.
I think Maiden, yes.
Yeah. Cog. We went and saw. We all went together to there was a Monolith festival in Perth. And there was a bunch of prog acts, and we all loved it. Carnival.
Yeah.
We all love it. Yeah.
Plenty.
Yeah. And like, every rehearsal session, we'll be putting on music, and we'll each discover something else that someone else likes.
Yeah,
so
that's the thing.
It's always changing.
Yeah, a lot of the bands that we have in common, taste-wise, are bands that we've discovered off of each other as well. So, you know, purely by being fans of the rock and metal genre and enjoying, you know, prog as well, it's just, we're quite open-minded, I suppose, when it comes to all sorts of music and all sorts of rock and metal that may be inspired by something a bit more left of field, which I think is well, it's kind of what we're trying to do as well. Is a lot of the classic sort of stuff has been done to death, and you know, you've got all these guys who are kind of doing, I don't know, neo dad rock in a way, and that's really not what we want to do.
But we don't shy away from pop sensibilities.
Exactly. Yeah.
You know, we want those sing along moments. We want the songs that people, there's something catchy, there's a new worm there for everyone. So it's a fine line, and that's really where working with Templeman was great. Because he understood that process, having worked with Voyager and Birds of Tokyo and everyone else in Perth. You know, he sort of understood, okay, cool, I can see where this song's going. This would be cool if we had this part here, and was able to reorchestrate some of the songs a little bit.
He also was into all the sort of bands that we were into, like Dream Theater and Porcupine Tree, and he was like, oh, this album from this song, this genre, and
So there's a lot of influences. Like I grew up on the Eagles, the Beatles, Creedence Clearwater Revival, Steely Dan, all that kind of stuff, and then slowly but surely discovered the distortion on my amplifier. Drop to E, C sharp, you know, down to B eventually. I got introduced to Dream Theater at 13 by a good friend of mine, Stephen Taranto, who literally gave me a copy of Train of Thought and just went, you need to listen to this, it'll blow your mind. And it did.
This speaks for itself.
Yeah, exactly. So there's a lot of influences in the band, which is great because it means at the end of the day, what we draw out of those sort of becomes uniquely us, as opposed to like, and not to drag on some sort of genres and so on and so forth, but a lot of metalcore and such like that nowadays, it kind of all sounds pretty similar. Whereas we're lucky in the prog genre where it can all sound a little bit different, but even prog's kind of going that way a little bit. The amount of people that sound like a Dream Theater cover band nowadays is unbelievable.
Well, that's a topic for a whole episode as well.
Absolutely,
it's like whether or not it's a non sequitur misnomer rather is to call a lot of progressive music progressive, is because it kind of is just rehashing a lot of the same tropes that people have gotten from their influences. So I guess that's one of our core endeavors, I suppose, is to stray away from that and to bring in elements from other genres. And sometimes that is pop as well. You know, some really interesting stuff is being done in the pop music world. And I think that metal bands are doing themselves a disservice if they choose to shy away from that and ignore it, or choose to turn their noses up at it because they have an attitude, a derisive attitude towards pop music.
I agree.
I think just because you belong to a certain genre doesn't mean that you have to exclude certain influences. It's if you're a band that has enough chemistry together, then you'll forge a sound that is you anyway. So you could probably play any song and it would sound like yourselves. So there's no point limiting yourself in any way on purpose.
Yeah, sure. So the singles just come out. What's the plan for the near future for Proclivity? Have you got other singles on the way? Like what's
on to the next one?
Okay.
We've actually got 2 others in the bank. We recorded 3 tail end of last year with Matt Templeman down at Hopping Mass Studios down in South Freo, or it's basically South Freo. I think at that point it becomes whatever the next suburb is, but anyway. It's really looking good. We've got one coming out. The next one is Paper Dollhouse.
Indeed.
Which is a bit of a left turn. It's less heavy and more sort of instrument focused, and a lot of doors and subs and synths and so on and so forth in there. But a very cool song. And then the one after that is Rain Dance, which sort of amalgamates the two worlds. Whereas Mania is very heavy guitars, drums, in your face. Paper Dollhouse is far more laid back and far more pop sensible, if you will. And Rain Dance is 7 minutes of putting the two together. So it's going to be interesting, that's for sure, to see how the world reacts.
Yeah, nice one. That's cool. Awesome. And do you have any other shows locked in, or you just kind of, see what happens?
We actually have a gig down in Bunbury. Coming up in July. July. Yes, thank you. July 15th. Yeah, you can tell which of us is far more on it with the calendar. But 15th of July. So we'll be playing down there. But that's the only one we've got locked in so far. Just because with the next release coming out and so on and so forth, we're really focusing on that, and we've actually got to get back in the studio as well and record 2 new ones.
Yeah,
so
that's it. Yeah.
It's all happening in the Proclivity camp. It's just a case of calendaring and scheduling it.
Yeah. I mean,
cool.
This stuff is happening in parallel, really. So as we are planning the artwork and the videos for both of these remaining singles, we are thinking about how we're going to tweak the songs in preparation for recording for the next few releases. And at the same time as that, we're still having ideas because we're musicians and we can't help it. So we're writing as well. And even though that might not be the most pressing or urgent or productive thing to be doing right now, we are, because we want to. So really our head is in several different places at the same time. And then when you put gigs on top of that as well, you kind of have to split your life into quadrants.
As well,
and then try to have a day job.
Yeah, I was about to say, yeah.
As well as we're trying to sort of tailor each song in together so it makes a complete album. So it's not just
cool.
Like we're trying to make a follow through line through the whole album.
Concept.
And
we
like selecting which ones we want to sort of keep and then which ones we want to push for the next album.
Yeah, nice. Awesome. So when do you think we'll hear the next single? Do you have a date in mind, or?
It's top secret.
Roughly. Top secret, even to us.
Okay.
I think you were saying somewhere in July.
July would be great. Early, I think would be great. Yeah. We'll allow ourselves a few more days to celebrate the success of Mania and try to keep that as well. It's people very quickly move on to the next thing in this world as it stands, with feeds coming in from numerous media platforms, and you can easily be forgotten if you don't keep that up. So that's another thing that we have to keep pushing and keep scheduling as well. Keep reminding the world, hey, Mania's out. Yeah,
nice, cool. All right, look, Proclivity, thanks heaps for your time. And the winner of Eurovision was Cool. All right. Guys, have a good one.
It's Canada.
Cool. All right, have a good night, guys.
Thank you.